All right, well, that was fun. Seahawks, Cardinals, NFC West showdown. I think this division is a lot better than what people want to give it credit for. Like, it doesn't have 3 or 4 Super Bowl contenders. They got the Rams, obviously, a pretty good team in the NFC. But even the Cardinals and the Seahawks tonight, the Niners, who are undefeated, they got some well-structured teams in that division that could make the playoffs. If their schedule aligns and they win a few close games. I don't think they get enough credit over there in the NFC West. They've built some really strong rosters, and I thought that was on display tonight. Great battle between the Seahawks and the Cards, dominated by Seattle for the most part, but Kyler showed some resilience with the Cardinals, brought it back, tied the game. Seahawks win on a game-winning field goal. Great game. Seahawks go 3-1, Cardinals 2-2. We're going to get into all of that tonight, touch on a few more points going around the NFL, getting you prepped for week 4. It's going to be a great evening. I can't express how happy I am that football is back. I'm sure you're so happy, and that's why you're tuning back into the show today. You know what it is, JV, back on the JV show. We're doing a Thursday Night Football recap. Few more topics I want to get into this evening. It's packed. It's loaded. We're going to get down and dirty right away. But first and foremost, I want to remind you this season I am sponsored by my friends over at Big Third Down Shop, who printed this real sick JV show hat for me and a bunch of other NFL ones. Go check them out. They're linked on my profile in my link tree. They got a ton of great hats right now, and they're building so much more. So stay tuned for that. I'll keep you updated. And without further ado, let's talk some football. Seahawks 23, Cardinals 20. Sam Darnold, man. I talked about him a few weeks ago. We're talking about him again. I got a chance tonight to really hone in on his performance, and I was really impressed again. Obviously, the 14-win season last year with the Vikings. Real impressive, resurrecting his career. But, I think we can confidently say at this point, Sam Darnold isn't a one-year wonder. The Seahawks can build around him. He's not just this guy that showed up in a great situation and balled out and his career tailors off afterwards. No, I think Sam Darnold legitimately could be the future for the Seahawks. People don't realize he's 28 years old. Josh Allen's 29. This is the prime of Sam Darnold's career. And he's only getting better and better with every single game. You can see the progress. And I think what we've seen so far this season and what we saw last year with Minnesota is that Sam Darnold can win you games. Evidently. He's come up clutch in games like tonight with big-time performances, with big game-winning drives. I'm thinking last year there was a game, ironically, against the Seahawks where he, I think, tossed to Justin Jefferson down the field at some point later in the game. It was an unreal throw, one of the best throws of the year, and I was like, wow, this guy can ball. And after that point, I was tuning into him, watching him a little bit more, and look, I understand. Big moments came around last year against the Lions later on in the season. They lost that game, were a wild card team, playoffs didn't look so good. People were clowning him, saying he was seeing ghosts. Wasn't his best performances, I'm not going to lie to you. But, he wasn't the only issue in Minnesota at that point. The offensive line really wasn't up to par. They were missing Darisaw for the back half of that season. Really tough to make up for a loss like that. And honestly, they weren't blocking well for him. Receivers, the separation in those games, it wasn't great. Now, I'm not going to fully defend Sam Darnold. It wasn't his best performances. But I think people might have overreacted slightly. He is clearly a starting quarterback in the NFL. And from what I've seen from the film last year and this year through 4 games, the Seahawks are 3-1. And they definitely have more in the tank. I think when you're assessing his game, you look at his great traits. He's got great mobility. He moves super fluently, ability to break outside the pocket, make things happen with his arm, with his legs. The throw on the run and the playmaking ability is great. I think he's an excellent thrower off platform, and he can pick up a first down or 2 with his legs. Very versatile. He's not your Lamar, but definitely has that agility, that wiggle to make things happen. Listen, like, you watch the Seahawks last year, they've been a pretty good team these past few seasons with Geno. Sam Darnold is clearly a step up from Geno. Like, clearly. He is clearly an upgrade from Geno. Clearly an NFL starter. Anyone who's drafted to the Jets should immediately get a free pass, a free second shot at the NFL. All right, and I'm kind of seeing that with a few teams. I can rattle off the Browns, the Panthers, the Jets, obviously. Like, these are franchises that you go and your career goes to die. Baker Mayfield and the Browns. Right now, Bryce Young and the Panthers, I have no clue what's in store for his career, but I would love to see him get another shot on a real team. The Giants, another one with Daniel Jones. Like, isn't it ironic that these quarterbacks are drafted super high to these bad teams? They underperform, or quote-unquote underperform, and end up going to these functional offenses and succeed. It's crazy, right? Like, it really shows you that opportunity, and there is a little bit of luck involved in the NFL of where you go, where you land, what coaching staff you land with, what players you got, and I think Sam Darnold is exhibit A right in front of our eyes of that situation. And I'm looking at how his career shaped out after the Jets drafting him. He went to San Francisco, went to Minnesota. So that's telling me Shanahan liked him. Kevin O'Connell liked him. I trust those great offensive minds on their assessment of Sam Darnold. I think he's a baller. Now, are the Seahawks a Super Bowl team this year? I don't think so. I'm not going to jump to conclusions right now, but the team looks really good. And they can definitely build around him and his youth. They got some stars on offense. They got a great defense. And I thought Sam Darnold tonight and so far this season has looked exceptional. Speaking of stars on offense, before we flip to the Cardinals, man, JSN is impressive. We're not going to go too in-depth tonight. I just want to give an overview of the game. Hopefully later on this weekend, I'll get you a film review of JSN. And I want to do one of Ricky Pearsall over for the Niners as well, because these two guys have just been balling. I mean, exceeded expectations of mine. So we're going to go deep into that film later on this weekend. But as for right now, I mean, you want to talk about a big player, a guy that comes up in big moments. That's exactly who JSN is. Happened, I think, last week and this week again on that final drive, that back shoulder ball from Sam Darnold. Real impressive. Incredible. I think JSN is a guy, you lose DK, a little bit unfortunate, but you can rely on JSN as the next guy up. Tyler Lockett obviously gone too. I mean, that was the duo that I loved watching, when I was a little younger. It was awesome to see them, and it's good to see that they've locked down a guy like JSN now for their future, because he is impressive, man, to say the least. Let's hop over to the Cardinals now. Kyler Murray, a guy that you see so many memes of on social media, people saying he runs like a toddler. Honestly, they kill me, man. These NFL memes, I'm sure even the players love them. Like, come on, they're golden, right? Tonight was pretty impressive from Kyler. I mean, he led a comeback drive. He brought them back from a 13-point deficit, a 14-point deficit. They were down in the dumps, and Kyler dug them up, threw 2 interceptions in the first half. Not sure either of them were on Kyler Murray. But I think the question remains, up to this point, is Kyler Murray a franchise quarterback? I think a lot of people are asking the exact same question, and they have been really since he entered the league. Here's my thing with Kyler, and here's my take. He's very hard to trust as a quarterback, and for me, that's a problem. If you are a fan of the Cardinals, and to be fully transparent, I haven't watched them a lot this year. Tonight, I had an opportunity to see the Cardinals and see what they're all about. I was a little higher on them, actually, heading into the season. I think their defense is underrated, and their offense has some great talent, but I haven't watched them too closely as I have maybe my Buffalo Bills, obviously. But over the past few years, assessing Kyler and his abilities, look, it's undeniable he's a great athlete. He was picked in the top 10 in 2 major league drafts, baseball and football. That's great. he has shown these splashes and moments of excellence, right? There are sparks of greatness from Kyler Murray that make you excited as a fan, I'm sure. But unfortunately, that's not going to do it in the NFL. And I talked about the eye test last week with Justin Herbert. And I want to talk about it with Kyler because I think it applies. I think when you're assessing quarterbacks as a fan, from an individual standpoint, just watching the games, you can tell a lot by just watching. We can break it down to stats, to different categories, arm strength, the ability to read defenses. All of that is completely legit. But I think the one thing that has almost never failed me is the eye test, being honest with myself and being honest with my gut. My gut feeling about Kyler is that he's not a franchise guy for the Cardinals. I watch a guy like Justin Herbert, who hasn't had any playoff success. For some reason, I have complete trust in him as a quarterback and his abilities. Because when I watch him play, he's big out there. He sees the field really well. You can clearly see the arm talent, the consistency, the big play potential. It's all there. It's hard to explain because, and I'm being very vague here because I don't have any stats or anything prepared for the episode. I'm purely talking based off opinion and just my eyes. But I truly believe when it comes to quarterback, my eyes do not deceive me. I'm watching, and you can see, if we're going to be honest, there are some quarterbacks in the gray area, right? There are some quarterbacks that kind of float, like Jared Goff, right? Plays some great games, plays some bad games. He floats in the gray area. Kyler may be one of those guys, but I just don't have full trust in him. And that's a problem for me if you're a franchise quarterback. I think one thing about Kyler, he led a great game-winning drive. I don't want to take away anything from tonight. I thought he put his team in a position to succeed despite, some errors maybe on the talent on offense and special teams errors, mishaps that you can't control. But again, I digress. Let's talk about Kyler real quick here and focus in on him. With a 2-minute drive, right? I don't trust Kyler Murray with the ball in his hands to win a game on a 2-minute drive, like I do Baker Mayfield, like I do Josh Allen, like I do Justin Herbert. When I watch Josh Allen, for example, drive the field with 2 minutes left, with a game on his shoulders, with a game in his hands, I have zero fear. I'm steady. I'm not trembling. I'm not worried. I have full confidence Josh Allen will deliver. And I just don't feel like that about Kyler. Tonight, I didn't feel about that. It's great. Turned out to be a great result tonight. But can he do it on a consistent basis? I don't know. And we've had, 4 or 5 years now of Kyler Murray in the NFL with the Cardinals. At one point or another, you're going to have to make a decision. You're going to. And I think it comes down to, for me at least, the eye test. Does he look the part? When I watch him, can you clearly see? For example, before we hop over to Marvin Harrison, which we're going to touch on right away, my dad came down the other day when I was watching the Chargers game and came up to me. He's just a basic NFL fan, not an analyst by any means. And he says, wow, Justin Herbert is a baller. He's a gamer. And I realized in that moment again, there's truth to the eye test. Just to the regular fan, you can see who is in that elite category of quarterbacks. And I think we all kind of know it, and as fans, our biases creep in maybe. But I think with Kyler, it's just hard for me to look at him and have full, absolute confidence and trust in his abilities game in and game out to go out and make this team a Super Bowl caliber team. Let's talk about Marvin Harrison Jr. really quick here before we transition over to a few extra topics for this evening. People were so quick to hate tonight. It's crazy. Marvin Harrison Jr. is so overhated for no reason. People were calling him a bust at halftime. What are we doing? Come on, like, we can do better. As fans, as the media, we can do better. Those people that were tweeting at halftime, shit, they better delete that shit real quick because it was pretty embarrassing. I'm watching. Look, I get it, right? 885 yards, 8 touchdowns. Maybe you were expecting a little bit more. A slightly disappointing rookie season from a guy that went 4th overall in the NFL draft. I completely understand. We saw a guy like Malik Neighbors come into a brutal Giants offense and dominate. 1,200 yards last year. Great season, right? So it's hard to look at Marvin Harrison Jr. and what he did and his drop issues and whatever happened in his rookie year and say he had a 10 out of 10 A-plus season. But that doesn't mean I'm jumping off the Marvin Harrison Jr. train. I'm just not. You know, first of all, physically, 6'3", 220 pounds. That's a pro. And the big thing for me, especially as a wide receiver, confidence is key in the NFL. The second that confidence is shot, especially as a receiver, it is tough to make even the simplest of plays. I mean, I think we all saw his reaction when he caught that touchdown in the end zone. I mean, he was just, it was a sigh of relief because you lose all your self-confidence when the media is just crashing down on you, calling you hot ass. There's so much self-doubt that creeps into you as a player, and anyone who's played the game can relate to this. Absolutely anybody. You know, and even Marvin Harrison Jr., it's amplified because of his dad. He's got super high expectations. The bar is set so high for Marvin Harrison Jr. because of his dad's success in the NFL that even a mediocre season, like almost 900 yards and 8 touchdowns, is a pretty successful year for a rookie. But I think we overprojected our expectations, especially in a Cardinals offense too, right? I mean, we just talked about Kyler Murray. But at the end of the day, man, I refuse to believe a receiver that dominated in college just forgot how to play football at the NFL level. Like, the DBs and the schemes are definitely a lot better, don't get me wrong. But the talent is still evidently there with Marvin Harrison Jr. Maybe the timing's off with Kyler. Maybe it's the offense. Like, there are a lot of things. And again, Marvin Harrison Jr., there have been some unexcusable errors on his part too. But I just don't understand the hate. He made 2 huge catches in the second half tonight. One of them for a big-time touchdown. And for me, that was enough to say Marvin Harrison Jr. is still that guy. He still is. Don't jump off the hype train. Don't be a follower. Don't be a sheep. People will have their opinions, but it's year 2. If Quentin Johnston revived his career and is now playing at an elite level with the Chargers, believe in Marvin Harrison Jr. He had one decent year. It was decent, okay? It wasn't trash. It was a decent year. And 4 games into the season, we're calling him a bust, a draft bust. Come on. We got to do better. Let's move to the Dallas Cowboys. 2 topics tonight. Cowboys, and we're going to touch on Jaxson Dart now starting for the Giants. Look, I talked about the Cowboys in my Sunday recap video. We didn't really touch on their defense, though. And, you know, it was something I was a little bit passionate about, I would say, to, you know, express my thoughts on the whole situation there. Because it's brutal. Like, it is really bad. I was thinking tonight, actually, that Cowboys defense might be one of the worst in league history. Seriously. It might be an all-time bad, just trash defense in history. Week 1 was obviously a fluke against the Eagles. I don't know what the hell they had going on. I think it was more of a Eagles offense thing than it was Dallas Cowboys defense was on locks. But whatever. Week 2, Russ dunked on that secondary for 450 yards and got benched after his next performance. Week 3, a rookie head coach got his first win with ease against his defense. They've allowed 68 total points over the last 2 games. Come on. I don't know who thought it was a good idea to bring in Matt Eberflus for this defense, but it looks like a disaster. And really, the point I realized it, I was shocked. Like, jaw on the ground, mind blown. Week 2, Giants, Cowboys, everyone in the world but Eberflus and that Cowboys defense knew the moonball was coming against Russ, and they couldn't stop it. It was embarrassing. It was the only thing Russ had in his toolkit, and they couldn't stop it. They couldn't scheme for it. They couldn't defend it. Time after time after time, shot after shot. They made Russ look like a damn all-pro, and he gets benched the next week. Come on, guys. Come on. Like, this defense is bad. And I know people are going to blame a lot of different people. Dak, Schottenheimer. I'm not buying it. The defense is a glaring issue. No matter how good Dak is, if he plays at a top 5 level, it doesn't matter. The defense just won't do it. It won't cut it as an NFL standard. And I know people will say, oh, they're missing Micah. For sure, right? You're missing an all-pro talent. Absolutely. Any defense would miss Micah. But I truly think, even with Micah, there's still a bottom 10 defense. Seriously. Like, again, I have no clue what happened week 1. It was a complete fluke. The secondary sucks. The pressure on the quarterback, like, it's bad. It's bad overall. Just bad. Bad news. The Cowboys defense just stinks this year. It's pretty embarrassing. Let's talk about Jaxson Dart real quick before we wrap things up here. Speaking of Russell Wilson, ironically, after his vintage Russ game against the Cowboys, he gets benched. It was pretty brutal last week, his performance against the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football. Man, that red zone trip, I think pretty much every NFL fan has seen it. How many balls did he throw at the back of the end zone? 3 out of 4 on that red zone trip. It was bad. So it was justified, right? Starting Jaxson Dart was inevitable. It's the right decision, right? It has to be the right decision. It's a great decision, honestly. I think, I would have started him after week 1. It was very clear Russ is just aging out of the NFL, late 30s. It's tough to compete at that level, especially when you're not really an intermediate thrower and you relied a lot on your athleticism when you were younger. It's tough, right? Because you're not the quarterback you once were. Even Brady, when he got older, like, he needed a perfect pocket to deliver. Rodgers right now, too. And he's been pretty good, to be honest with you, off platform. But whatever. We'll get back to Jaxson Dart right now. The funny thing about the Giants, the NFL did the Giants so damn dirty this year. All right? I want to read you off their schedule. Because, they started the season, Commanders, Cowboys, and then the Chiefs. But, just listen to the teams they're facing this year. The Chargers, the Eagles, Broncos, Eagles. That's a 3-game stretch. Then you got the Niners, the Bears, Packers, Lions, Commanders again later in the season, Vikings. It is so bad for a team that is not ready to push playoffs. I don't know how they landed with this schedule. It's pretty bad. It's pretty sad. I feel bad for the fan base. But with all that being said, this Giants team is severely underrated. They just have a tough schedule. And I don't think, I think I predicted them at 8-9, to be honest with you. Maybe a little bit of an over projection. We'll see. The meaning behind the projection was they have a really good team. They have a lot of talent. It's underrated. The schedule is just tough. It can still happen if they close out some close games, but probably unlikely. More of like a 6-win team, most likely. But anyways, they got a ton of talent, right? The defense is loaded with players, especially that pass rush. especially that front seven, that front four. They're set for the future. And the offense is deep with great talent. Malik Neighbors, Wan'Dale Robinson, Cam Scadaboo. They got a ton of playmakers on that offense. Now, the problems have been offensive line and QB. No doubt. Offensive line and QB play have been way too inconsistent, but Jaxson Dart at least gives them a shot, right? Like, he gives them an opportunity to go out there and win and compete in a few games that aren't against the Cowboys defense. Let me make that very clear. I think Russ lost that locker room, and this was a much needed change. This is the GM and the head coach saying, our jobs have been on a hot seat that is flaming right now for a long time. We need a spark. We need a few wins in the win column. We need something. And at least Jaxson Dart is a fresh face. He's young, motivated, extremely talented, probably brings a lot more juice to the table than Russ. Starting Jaxson Dart gives the Giants a shot to win a few games here. I think the team is underrated. I think they can go out and compete. And, they're not going to make the playoffs, but they can shake things up. I'm going to give them credit. I love rooting for teams that are down because, they don't get a lot of love. But if you watch the New York Giants play, there are moments you can say, man, if Russ made that throw, maybe they would have beat the Chiefs. Man, if Russ could just handle a little bit of pressure, if he could hit a few passes over the middle, maybe they score a few more points against the Commanders. Maybe they close out the game against the Cowboys in overtime and we don't throw an idiotic pick. Who knows, right? But, Jaxson Dart was the right move. It was inevitable, like I said. It was going to happen at some point or another early in the season. I mean, I don't know if anyone predicted week 4, but it's here. Giants-Chargers this week, a tall task for a rookie quarterback, but I believe in Dart. I believe in his abilities. Let's see what he can do week 4 in his first NFL start. That is a wrap on Thursday Night Football, my little episode that I had going on here. As you always know, Sunday is the big episode. That's your big ticket item. And then Monday Night Football, me and my boy Steve, we go for about 45 minutes to an hour recapping that. So tons of content coming your way. Thank you so much for 2K subscribers here on YouTube. We have been taking off. I love it. I appreciate it so much. I thank you guys every single day. It's amazing. Thank you so much. As always, keep yourself safe tonight. Have a wonderful sleep. And I'll catch you in the next episode. Yes, sir.